And welcome to another episode of Teed Up. And we're recording after the Orlando Magic defeat the Indiana Pacers 119 to 103. We are basically playing a back-to-back series of games with the Pacers, so the Magic are going to play the Pacers again. If you're in the UK, that would be the early tip-off on Thursday morning. If you're in the USA, it's the Wednesday night 7 p.m. tip-off. But the Magic in the first of these two games against the Pacers win 119 to 103. There was 8 players in double figures for the Magic, and that includes led by Wendell Carter Jr., who's been on a tear recently with 21 points and 12 rebounds. Mo Bamba, 15 points and 10 rebounds. And Jalen Suggs putting up 14 points and 10 assists on a very efficient evening. There were other players, obviously 8 players getting in double figures is huge. The Magic, in my opinion, won this game in the third quarter. It's when they really pulled away from the Pacers. But the reality of the situation is I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm here to talk about the man's jersey behind me, which was the return of Markelle Fultz. If you are a fan of the Magic or a fan of the NBA, you are probably aware that Fultz did his ACL. It is my opinion that when Fultz got injured last season, that was the beginning of the rebuild for the Magic. The Magic have obviously had a lot of issues with injuries in the last few years. Jonathan Isaac, for example, still hasn't played last season or this. That's huge for the Magic, but Fultz going down, I think, was an injury too far. That's when the Magic really slipped after a good start last season to a disaster of a season in the end. The trigger was pulled on a number of trades, which saw Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and Evan Fournier depart the squad. And really, it's been a bit of a rebuild. That's what we're in right now. And we've been looking at when would Markelle Fultz return, and there's been a lot of speculation. I know I've speculated myself on here with the feeling that Fultz some people thought would come back before Christmas. I was kind of in that camp, but the Magic have taken their time, and Fultz returned playing 16 minutes against the Indiana Pacers. He came back to a standing ovation, so the people who were in the Amway Center for that game were delighted to see Markelle. It was one of those games where the Twitter community was building up. It was Markelle Fultz Day. There was a Markelle Fultz chant that started in the arena. Everyone was pleased to see him. You could see the players coming into the game wearing blue Orlando Magic t-shirts with Fultz's number 20 number on it. It was huge. Fultz returned and he put up in just 16 minutes 10 points and 6 assists on 5 of 7 field goals. A couple of things that you should probably watch if you're just watching highlights of this game. There's been a lot of people thinking, what would the impact be when Markelle Fultz comes back to this team? Orlando's obviously a guard-heavy team right now, and you could argue there's 4 point guards on the roster with Cole Anthony, with Jalen Suggs, with arguably RJ Hampton, and also now adding Markelle Fultz into this equation. Fultz's first thing he did was he cut into the paint and he created an easy 2 points for Franz Wagner. It was apparent, really, from watching those 16 minutes of Fultz that he was still able to run the floor like a gazelle. He's got this huge stride. It was also apparent defensively. The court just seemed smaller with Fultz on it. When he was like basically heading off the attacks from the Pacers, they just look smaller. Fultz is by far, I would say, he's even bigger than Jalen Suggs as a point guard. He's got this gazelle-like stride that I've commented on before. But the thing I think which I was most happy about took place, I believe it was towards the end of the third, when Chuma Okeke had the ball. It was kicked to Fultz, and he cut in, did a spin move, and then he just hit this lovely arcing fadeaway jumper. And for me, that was Fultz's best move. There've been, obviously the assists. There was a couple of lovely cuts to the basket, but the jumper on that move. He's had a decent mid-range game developing when he got injured before, but it was just the arc, the smoothness, and it was just great to see Markelle Fultz back in an Orlando Magic uniform. It was 16 minutes. It was 16 minutes that were a joy to watch. Magic fans were delighted. We haven't had a lot to cheer this season, but the Orlando Magic commentary team of basically Jeff Turner and David Steele basically saying they don't want to see any more injuries for this guy. He's obviously had the shoulder injury. I think if that injury hadn't occurred to Fultz, he would still probably been playing in Philadelphia. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Markelle can pick up where he left off pre-injury. I don't think it's going to be one of these where he comes in and put up sort of 20 points a game between now and the end of the season. It's a fitness exercise. It's making sure he's okay. It's finding his way back. There's no real pressure on Markelle Fultz this season other than just to find his way back into the team in preparation for next. But it was lovely to see him on the court. It was something for Magic fans everywhere just to, it felt like an arc really of where he'd gone down and he was back. And he's a popular player in the Magic fan community, fan base. And it's a lovely redemption story. So everyone's rooting for Markelle Fultz. The Magic will play again tonight against the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers, I think, will be a stronger proposition tonight with their Malcolm Brogdon slated to be back in the lineup. But it'll be interesting to see what the Magic can do. Can the Magic go on a three-game winning streak? And can we go back-to-back versus the Indiana Pacers? Who knows, but it's going to be great to see just what Markelle Fultz and the Magic can do tonight. So take care. Hopefully everybody's safe and we'll speak soon.